Hello, this is the Green Report, a Rappler show on the environment and the stories of people whose decisions impact the world around us. I'm Iya Gozum, Rappler's environment reporter, and today I'm joined by Dr. Jayson Ibañez, Director of Operations at the Philippine Eagle Foundation. Una ko nakasama si Dr. Ibañez sa Leyte when we made a documentary on the release of 2 Philippine eagles back into the wild, and now recently came from fieldwork in Apayao for the inauguration of the Apayao Research Center. So, sir, tell us about your recent fieldwork in Apayao, yung inauguration ng Research Center, and what this means for your work in the conservation of Philippine eagles.
Yes, so we're very excited kasi again, nagkaroon ng inauguration ang Apayao Research Center, the Biosphere Reserve of Apayao Research Center, and this would become the hub for research and extension work for the new Biosphere Reserve. And we were joined, of course, we were very honored to be with the provincial governor, with the congresswoman, the leaders of Apayao, and then the indigenous peoples and other partners. And this is, in a way, a crowning glory, of course, of yung long years of effort to protect not only the Philippine eagle, but all of the precious wildlife, biodiversity, and the ecological services within Apayao.
So, sir, this is a recent development dun sa long-running campaign nyo para declare na Biosphere Reserve ang Apayao. And now, it has been declared, right, in 2024?
Yes, 2024, July.
And this is the recent development. So, can you take us back dun sa anong itsura nung kampanya na yun? Gaano yung katagal? Ano yung work that was put into it? And bakit importante sa inyo na matawag na Biosphere Reserve, makonsider na Biosphere Reserve ang Apayao for eagle conservation?
Yeah, so I guess I can say na yung conservation advocacy sa Apayao was a product of literally blood and sweat. No, it's a product of collaboration between the DNR, the Philippine Eagle Foundation, the local government units, and of course the indigenous community. So it all started with a report in 2010, and through the help of the DNR and other partners, we were able to verify yung presence nga, the first record of a Philippine eagle flying in the wild in 2011. And this was really very exciting during that time because conservationists and biologists were saying na baka hindi suitable ang Apayao forest as a Philippine eagle habitat because they were assuming that ang predominant vegetation sa or forests sa Apayao is pine forest. No, I guess yun yung perception before. So many even international biologists were saying, walang Philippine eagle sa Apayao. And then you have this photo and then evidence that indeed.
I can imagine at the time when you see that proof, no?
Yes, and
really exciting.
Very exciting kasi yung first time siya makita ng team. So you have apparently adult female sitting on a tree, and then there's like parang 2 dozens of rufous hornbills, no, mobbing and bullying yung female eagle. So that was really very exciting. And then, but finding the nest is very challenging. It took the team until 2015, no, after surveys, nest search every summer, no, starting as early as March up to June. We have that small window kasi as we all know, may typhoon season ng Luzon, so hindi pwedeng mag-survey during the typhoon season, which starts at June. And then finally, in 2015, that's where the team found the first active Philippine eagle nest in Luzon, no, in the municipality of Calanasan, inside an indigenous protected area. Nakita finally ang 2-month-old chick on a really huge nest being cared for by a Philippine eagle pair. And that was really a milestone. It was the first active nest ever documented in Luzon. During that time, we know of about 50 active pairs in Mindanao, Pero before this discovery, wala pang nadidiscover na activeness. So that was really a milestone. And that started yung focus and attention. And I guess yung inspiration then among the local government units of Apayao and yung indigenous communities to really closely look at the conservation of that precious Philippine eagle habitat.
So, yung declaration na maging Biosphere Reserve ang Apayao, at the heart of that is recognition of the indigenous way of forest conservation. So, can you tell us, sir, parang paano yun nag-play out ngayon? Like paano nyo ini-incorporate yung indigenous way of conservation sa efforts nyo ngayon sa Apayao, and in particular dito sa research center, which is going to be the hub of scientific knowledge sa loob ng Biosphere Reserve?
Well, as we always say, the reason why you have a thriving eagle population is Apayao is because yung forest protection is really embedded in the way of life of the indigenous peoples, namely the Isnag indigenous group. They have this really very admirable and effective practice called the lapat practice, where forests that are important and then that is part of the territory of a departed relative, someone who died and has ownership of that property, they would declare that area as an off-limits area to revere the person who passed away. And it's this practice which created yung mga sanctuaries for biodiversity. And so these are the indigenous knowledge systems and practices that we want to support because it's a manifestation of rich culture, strong belief system, but also it leads to positive impacts to biodiversity. And in this case, yung Philippine eagle is nesting within a particular forest that's declared as lapat or indigenous protected area. So we're very conscious of supporting indigenous management and governance of forests. We find a way so that the indigenous peoples can continue managing the forest using their knowledge because it's part of their way of life. Pero we're also bringing in technology, new ways of doing conservation. For instance, yung installation ng mga GPS trackers on the Philippine eagles, the use of GIS. So yung mga indigenous forest guards natin are also using telemetry techniques. We provide binoculars. So yun yung value that we're bringing in dun sa already existing conservation work nila. And of course, the local government is providing badly needed funds and technical assistance also. Conservation is not cheap. So that's where the private sector, the local government unit, and also mga policies that supports long-term conservation work ng mga indigenous people. So I think that's how we merge yung scientific knowledge and indigenous knowledge in terms of eagle conservation and nature protection.
Sa long-term conservation work, sir, parang now that's made even more possible by the research center. Tama, sir? Kasi meron ng dedicated na research staff, scientists, etc. How is that gonna work from here on?
Well, so being a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve also means that your reserve should be a hub also for knowledge generation and learning, both in-country and also internationally. As the fourth UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in the Philippines, Apayao is now part of a network of biosphere reserves across the Philippines. And it's acting as a model also on how to ensure that humans and nature can live together sustainably. So the research hub would provide the platform and the venue for that, show models of how scientists can document biodiversity, but alongside indigenous peoples. And then the indigenous peoples also benefiting from research, in terms of income, in terms of providing maybe homestay, and then also them working closely with researchers. So that's the dream for the Biosphere Reserve. It's a hub for two knowledge bases working together, the indigenous and the modern, scientists and local communities, but also providing experiential learning for students, local and international. And then hopefully that hub can also provide meaningful green jobs and engagements for communities. And altogether, we think that this can provide sustainability sa efforts natin.
So meron bang plans to also reintroduce Philippine Eagles soon in Apayao, and ilan yung target na i-reintroduce back into the wild?
Right. Well, we're really excited for Apayao kasi we think na there could be between siguro mga 20 to 25 Philippine Eagle pairs given yung amount of suitable habitat in Apayao. And as a unique population, we think that itong Apayao subpopulation, they have unique genetic traits that they can contribute to the whole Philippine Eagle population. So one of the dreams is to get eagles from Apayao and release them to places in Luzon, and if possible also to Mindanao, so that maka-inject ka ng new genetic diversity sa ibang population across the Philippines. Unfortunately, based sa recent genetic study ng Philippine Eagles, many of our wild population is already genetically eroded, no? So mababa yung genetic diversity ng mga subpopulation, especially sa Mindanao. Ang most inbred subpopulation ay yung sa Samar and some places in Mindanao. So the Cordillera population, including the Apayao population, can be a source of new genetic traits that can be introduced dito sa mga genetically depopulate subpopulation. So what that entails would be getting 1 or 2 birds from Apayao, maybe releasing it to Samar, and releasing it to also some vacant habitats in Luzon, and even in Leyte, where we are also doing releases. No,
I've seen the first 2 eagles released back, Carlito and Uswag, and now
we already have 5 released eagles. So the first batch was 2 birds. And then last year, we released 3 birds. And then hopefully, if we can also get birds, apart from Mindanao, also get birds from Luzon or even Samar, introduce them to Leyte, and then establish a self-sustaining population. Unfortunately, because of yung critically endangered status ng eagles, we really need to help it out. On their own, they couldn't survive and they couldn't mingle because of yung fragmentation ng habitats.
A lot of talk surrounding conservation of Philippine eagles and yung efforts ng Philippine Eagle Foundation are about repopulation, breeding. So, as a conservation biologist, yung mga tao na nasa field, you spend your lives na parang parallel or also witnessing the lives of these eagles. So you're really talking about long term.
Yes.
Laging ganon.
Exactly.
Laging ganon yung timelines. Maybe this is a very personal question, pero how does one manage that? Parang when you're talking about Leyte, ang mahaba yung timeline, long term yung timeline. And in the same way, ganon din yung Apayao, from seeing the proof na merong eagle doon and locating the nest years later and campaigning to make it a biosphere reserve, and now planning to reintroduce the Philippine eagle there. How does one manage that kind of work?
Right, yeah. Well, as you said, it's actually a lifetime commitment, no? We have our pioneers also already parang spending their time, their whole life, no, conserving the species. Just recently, there was a very nice encounter between our pioneer, si Manong Domeng, who has spent siguro more than 4 decades helping conserve the Philippine eagle. He's a pioneer for conservation breeding. And then a group from the Tamaraw Conservation Program in Mindoro also visited us. And then there was a guy there who started as early as 1979. So sila yung parang OGs ng Philippine Eagle Conservation and then the Tamaraw Conservation Program. I think it's indeed a lifetime commitment, but it's also important to have second and third liners, ika nga. So while we have our pioneers and then mga second liners, I consider myself as a second liner, we're also supporting these new batches or bloodlines of young biologists and early career and middle career biologists, and they continue the advocacy. And I think that's very, very important. And then apart from the conservation biologists, we also have government personnel, local government personnel who are really into the conservation, and we're sort of joining forces.
Partners.
And then also private partners. So for instance, we're being supported by a company, also San Roque Power Corporation, and they've been with us. They've been funding our work since day one, as early as 2010. They've been providing annual support for the surveys, etc. And so we grew together, ika nga. We have the same advocacies, and the new crowning glory ng efforts is seeing the eagles breed in the wild, survive. Putting GPS trackers would allow us to monitor yung life history, and we can actually write parang yung buong story na ng maybe isang eagle as long as it's alive. So I think these are the inspirations and also motivations that we get out of working with similar, like-minded individuals and individuals who have the same passion.
Right. When you entered the foundation, sir, did you set out that this is going to be a lifetime commitment, or it was back then just a job or something that you'd like to do?
That's a very interesting question, Iya. Kasi in my case, I think it's always like chance encounters and then serendipitous moments, no? As you've mentioned, all I wanted before as a young graduate is to have a job, no? Nag-apply pa nga akong parang staff sa isang motorcycle shop just to get a job. But then there was this opportunity to be a young biologist in Davao City, so I grabbed that. So fate, in a way, brought me, from Luzon to Davao City. And then there was opportunities to do training and then also get continuing education.
Right.
So yeah, I think and with the support of colleagues and mentors, I was able to make a good career, a good career out of conservation. So I think it's basically standing on the shoulder of giants, as they say. We have our pioneers, and then we have mentors, and then we were inspired by what they did, and we continue their advocacy. And I think that's how you sustain a conservation program, by providing opportunities for others as well to help out and then develop a career out of doing conservation.
Right. Maraming stories na lumalabas, regular na lumalabas na stories on the deforestation rate of the Philippines. It's always sad news, parang when you scroll through social media. Right. Pero, paano nyo nakikita yung ganong mga balita in the context na you're actively working on forest conservation to preserve a species, and you're also working on protecting these forests? Parang is it as bad as we think? Do we have a fighting chance against deforestation? Because of course, if a lot of people who really do not go out into the field and just see that story, para siyang doom story na it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Is it really? Can you offer us a different perspective?
Well, with respect to deforestation, fortunately, nag-slow down ng deforestation rate, and we have certain wins, no? So for instance, in Apayao, more than 80% of their total land area is still forest, and in some places, very little in deforestation. And so within the next 50 years, we think that we have like a stable forest cover. Unfortunately, yung issue ng shooting and trapping, including accidental trapping, ang we think we should really focus on. Kasi as we always say, at the rate that we're losing the eagles to shooting and then trapping both purposely and accidental, we might lose the eagles within the next 50 to 80 years. No, we did this population viability analysis. It's a statistical modeling made by our colleagues from the IUCN and experts from the US. They've predicted that at the rate that we're losing the eagles to shooting and hunting, especially the juveniles and subadults, we might experience, or the eagles might experience, a population collapse in the next 80 years. You might have a good forest still intact, pero if we don't do something about shooting and trapping and hunting, indeed, the eagles can go extinct within this lifetime. So I think that's the priority right now. No? We're also doing for protected area establishment. The UNESCO Biosphere Reserve is moving towards the direction. We're prioritizing ancient nesting sites kasi itong mga nest sites, these are used by eagles repeatedly. No, pinapamana nila yan sa next generation.
Like in Leyte, in
across the Philippines, many of the nesting sites are actually, well, all of the nesting sites are ancient nesting sites. So for instance, in Mount Apo, a nest site that was discovered during the early 70s, ginagamit pa rin siya ng isang pair today. So that's how very loyal they are. So if you want to design how a forest should be used by people, you exclude these nesting sites, between 500 hectares to over 1,000 hectares. You exclude them from any form of development or use. You fiercely protect it because that's very important for breeding of the Philippine eagles. And then the rest of the territory, that can be open for sustainable use. But the ancient nest sites should remain intact. And so that's how the Philippine Eagle Foundation is helping the government in terms of protection, find as many of these ancient nesting sites, and then help secure it, but with the help of the human neighbors who are the indigenous communities. Naman.
I think one of my takeaways nung sumama ako sa team nyo sa Leyte, and this is, I think, already common sense, it's just that when I hear conservation of eagles, I imagine a group of scientists and experts surrounding an eagle in a container. Pero nung nagpunta ako nun sa Leyte, when we were reintroducing Carlito and Iswag back into the wild, my takeaway is that conservation really takes not just a whole forest, but takes a whole village.
Exactly.
Kasi that's when I learned na you also have to educate the communities dun sa loob ng forest, yung mga settlements sa loob, to not shoot the eagle, that we have to protect it. So medyo mas lumawak yung pangunawa ko sa mga kailangan gawin ng conservation people. Kasi hindi nga naman pwedeng basta mo lang ilabas. And hindi rin pwedeng basta may forest, malaking forest, and may food doon, okay na. Kasi reintroducing them back into the wild means they have to live with humans who
conservation should be
may not shoot them down.
Part of the sort of the day-to-day decisions din ng mga locals. So what we do is we're trying to create and develop or support best experiences with the eagles. Like, so for instance, for transforming yung behavior ng mga hunters, we show that we support them so that they're better off saving the eagles than shooting them. And that's where itong mga forest guard program, yung mga green jobs can really help change behavior. So again, as you've said, it takes a village, literally the village that's living close to the nesting site kasi all our forests are actually peopled landscapes, no? Embedded talaga yung mga communities. So conservation should be part of their day-to-day lives. And we're not starting from scratch kasi the indigenous communities, they have these philosophies, They have this worldview and practices that's very compatible to conservation. All we need to do is support them and incentivize this using a creative combination of material and non-material incentives. So that's how we support community-based conservation.
To wind out this interview, sir, baka can you share one quirk of the Philippine eagle that the public may not necessarily be privy about?
Well, I think although they're considered apex predators, they're carnivores, they're formidable predators, they're also very romantic, no?
Oh.
So, for instance, they spend a lot of time doing courtships, no? In fact, July for Mindanao eagles is the courtship period, no? Dito na mag-start yung ligawan, no? So it includes the male eagle should be bringing in food to the female. We call it courtship feeding. And then it's meant for the male to show to the female na I can take care of you while you do full-time incubation.
Right.
No? So that's one of the sort of romantic traits of the eagles. They're very monogamous.
Yeah,
they
very
pair for
loyal.
life. No? So, and they really spend time taking care of a single chick. No? So when they stay in the nests and they feed the delicate chick, they fold their talons and then they walk very slowly and carefully on the nest kasi to prevent siguro accidental grabbing, no, or maharm nila yung chick. So that's how they're, you see an apex predator transforming into a very caring and very sensitive, no, na raptor while they're taking care of the young. So they're pretty much like us, no? They have this instinct to take care of their young.
Yeah.
They want to feel safe within their nesting site. In the same way that we want to feel safe in our homes, no? So we just believe that it's our obligation to keep them safe within their nesting sites and also them to manifest their natural behavior free from harm.
Outside of your project in Apayao, ano pa yung mga ongoing efforts ng Philippine Eagle Foundation right now?
Right. So we're also trying to assist the DNR with doing systematic surveys across the Philippines. We're now at the stage of looking at potential release sites also. One way to increase yung population is to release eagles in vacant habitats, no? Mga
You
habitats.
mentioned Banahaw.
Yes, Banahaw is a number one target. We think that Banahaw has the right forests and enough food items to support maybe 2 to 3 pairs of Philippine eagles. So the idea is to maybe get birds from Mindanao. We believe that all forest habitats in Mindanao are occupied. And you have pairs that are breeding consistently. So we think that there are surplus birds in Mindanao, meaning may extra birds tayo na pwede nating hulihin and then i-introduce sa mga vacant habitats. And that's how you increase the population number, no? Ensure yung survival ng mga translocated or transferred birds. And we have some forests in Luzon like Subic, Bataan forests, Mount Banahaw, Zambales is also vacant. And so we'll try our best, no, to facilitate releases of both birds from the wild and then captive bred birds. No? As you well know, the Philippine Eagle Foundation is doing also conservation breeding. We're partnering with international partners. And so that's part of the holistic approach. It's not easy, but again, with the support of the government, the DNR, local government units who are hosting potential releases. In Mount Banahaw, we're working with the Tayabas local government unit. So it's really very, very promising. The Philippine eagle might still be considered critically endangered. We might, Filipinos might say na wala nang fighting chance ang Philippine eagle, but we have evidences that things can work, with the right investment, with the right partnership, and of course with the right support from different partners.
Parang, sir, ang Banahaw ay closed to the public now for climbing, right? So that will stay like that?
I think so. Like, I think there's a conscious effort na rin, to protect biodiversity. There are metrics on measuring ano dapat ang carrying capacity ng protected area. We have the science, we have the data. All we need to do is, and I think that's where the Philippine Eagle program has an advantage because it's a charismatic activity. Yes. Everyone wants to be part of it. We have our national birds that is really very beautiful. It's very really charismatic, very majestic. People can easily fall in love with the Philippine Eagle. So the Philippine Eagle has that charisma. Yeah. And we always get it whenever we introduce eagle releases or eagle conservation projects in this area. So we're just lucky that we have an iconic focal species, and that encourages and motivates participation.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ibañez, for joining us. For more news and updates, join the Conversation on Environment and Science chat room of the Rappler Communities app. The app is available on iOS and Android. Or you can also visit communities.rappler.com. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Ibañez.
Thank you, Iya.
Thank you. And until the next episode, see you. Bye.